The Sports Insanity Podcast presents the opinions of all the members of the team, and they do not reflect the opinions of others. We understand that they have opinions that may differ to the matters that happen in the world today. We may not agree, but do, however, respect them. We hope that the topics that we discuss should be taken seriously and hope that it should open the door for future discussions.
All right, Patchy, thank you so much. Welcome into bonus content we would like to call Sports Insanity extra-innings. This is a place where we come to when we run out of topics from a regular show. We come here and we talk about all that stuff.
All the matters in the world that are happening.
Yeah. Yep. And this extra innings special is a little bit tougher today. It's our first one. It's already a little bit tougher. We felt that this conversation had to happen here only because, in our regular show, we like to have fun and we like to do lighthearted stories and, be fun and energetic. At the end of the day, we are supposed to be going completely insane for our show. So we wanted to keep that separate, but we thought it was important to at least talk about this issue going on in our country, and that obviously, is the situation with the police brutality. And if you guys have been living under a rock, George Floyd was unfortunately he had passed away after a police officer put his knee on his neck and died as a result of that. And obviously the reason why it's such a big story is because of the fact that it was a white police officer killing a unarmed black man, which is a topic that unfortunately will never go away. And I don't know why. It's one of those things that is, I hate to say it, it's the norm. These stories happen a lot and repeatedly, and for a lot of people of color, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see all that happening. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because a lot of the athletes in the sports world have been reacting to everything that's been going on, between LeBron James and the Drew Brees. And I want to bring back the guys in to sort of, hash out all the stuff that's going on. And it's been a crazy 2 weeks for the sports world. In the reaction to this, I want to start with you, Patchy, because it must be difficult to live in a country where there's so much racial divide. And in the sports world where it's starting to become more diverse and you have predominantly African-American athletes playing in two of the major sports in the country, it's definitely something that isn't going away, and the athletes are standing up to it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me in. You look at the matters in hands here. We always say there should be no politics in sports, but that surely isn't gonna happen anymore. Police brutality is a horrible thing that happens in our country, and it's unacceptable. You do something like that, you should be prosecuted to the fullest and thrown in jail. You were telling me you needed to put your knee down on somebody for that long.
About 9 minutes, apparently.
You're telling me
I saw that video. It was horrible.
It was horrible. I couldn't stomach it. I had to shut it off because I seen enough. That person was wrong to the fullest, having their knee down on them.
I believe the officer's named Derek Chauvin.
I believe so.
Yeah. But
to get back, we're bringing this topic in because it reflects our role that we discuss, which is sports. To reiterate, we always say, politics shouldn't be in sports. You know what? It should be in sports. You know why? Because those athletes are the ones that can speak out the most, that have a following. Like LeBron James, speaks out against all this. We ignored the big picture a few years ago. Colin Kaepernick took a knee for a reason. All of us Some of us may not agree with it. Some of us agree with it. We all have our opinions about it, and we should.
Or just with the approach of his protest for police brutality.
It was peaceful. Okay, it was during the national anthem. It raised a lot of fingers with him, and it focused on him being exiled from the NFL instead of us focusing on what he was protesting for.
And then that's exactly what I've been thinking about is, Colin Kaepernick, obviously it's no question about it, at least in my opinion, absolutely ostracized from the NFL for starting a conversation that needed to start. Like it's a tough conversation, but it had to start then. And it seemed like for the longest time, people were just dodging everything that was coming at them.
They were dodging everything, and they just focused on, he took a knee during the national anthem. He's disrespecting everything instead of looking at the bigger picture, which was what he was doing.
And he sort of warned us about it.
He did.
And I think the warning should have been even before that, when you had the whole situation in Ferguson with Michael Brown getting murdered, and from Officer Darren Wilson, and of course Eric Garner, New York City. Like that should have been the warning, but then of course, nothing really materialized with that. And then of course, Colin Kaepernick tries to start a conversation because he's using his platform, a huge platform.
He's in the NFL, one of the biggest.
Bring up the issue.
Yeah, he's in the NFL, one of the biggest platforms. He's a starting quarterback. Well, was a starting quarterback, and he took a stance towards something that needed to be discussed.
Exactly. Bill, go ahead, Patchy. Finish up, then Bill, I want to get his thoughts.
To finish off, and now everyone realizes, what? Maybe Colin Kaepernick was right. We should have listened. It's that old saying, we should have listened instead of ignoring it. And,
Sorry. Go on.
And to finish off, we all should have listened instead of ignoring it and everyone fighting about why if he is or is not disrespecting the anthem by disrespecting our country by kneeling.
And whether the freedom of speech thing is relates to all of that. Bill, go ahead. It must be tough for you because, as a host of a sports show, when you have to look at these topics, it must be difficult, especially, since we all grew up around diverse people.
Yeah. I want to begin my comments by saying our thoughts and prayers are with George Floyd's family right now. I cannot imagine the pain they're going through right now. But tying back to, I want to step back a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
Before Colin Kaepernick, after we saw the terrible death of Eric Garner in New York City, this activism started, before Colin Kaepernick, when we saw LeBron James and other players were wearing shirts that said, "I can't breathe."
Exactly, when they were warming.
The last words of Eric Garner and unfortunately the last words of George Floyd.
Exactly, when they were practicing for warm-ups during ball games.
And that raised a few eyebrows, am I right? Or
I mean, it certainly got people's attention because it was at that time, especially the events going on in Ferguson. Eventually, there were riots in Ferguson.
And I don't know if you remember, there were a few players in Ferguson on the Rams when they were in St. Louis at the time. I think it was after Darren Wilson was after a grand jury said that they wouldn't indict him. A few Rams players came out with their hands up like that because there were protesters marching through Ferguson yelling, "Hands up, don't shoot."
Right.
And tying it all back to Kaepernick and Patchy, I 100% agree. He was right the whole time. And I've known people who were deeply set against Colin Kaepernick taking a knee because they're saying that it was more about, it's disrespectful to the flag, it's disrespectful to the troops, it's disrespectful to those who have died for our country. But you guys were right. It was never about that.
Yeah, well, the reason why people made it about it is because Kaepernick says, "I'm not going to stand for a flag of a country that treats its people poorly, that treats portions of the population poorly." So I'm just paraphrasing what he said when he was first interviewed. This is when he was sitting down during the anthem.
Yeah,
he just wasn't saying, he was just sitting down. And then of course later on he started taking knees and stuff. But
what a lot of people don't realize is he got the idea to kneel from a veteran.
Exactly.
When the veteran first saw him sit, he was angry. And then when he saw his post-game interview, when he said, listen, we got a lot of problems in this country, and as soon as we fix them, I'll stand. And he said, you know what, this guy, this guy has good, his heart's in the right place, is what the guy was saying. So he wrote to Colin Kaepernick, and he said, hey, I support your cause, but there's a more respectful way to do it. And Colin Kaepernick actually wrote him back, and he said, okay, well, why don't you come sit down, talk with me, and we'll discuss it. And he did. And he said, well, what can I do that's more respectful? He goes, why don't you take a knee? We kneel in prayer. We kneel at the graves of our fallen brothers and sisters. So why don't you take a knee? And that's what Colin Kaepernick did. And something that makes me angry about this whole thing is, I'm sorry to bring it back up again, but it's just that binary thinking that people have of, oh, he's kneeling for the national anthem, therefore he hates America. Did he ever say he hates America?
That's a good point.
And
Valid
yes,
point.
he did state about country treating their people poorly. That reminds me, there was a quote by Thomas Jefferson. Well, it was attributed to Jefferson, but it could have been attributed to anyone. It's one of those quotes, you know what I mean? He said, dissent is the highest form of patriotism. And he was calling out. He warned us. And I think LeBron James actually stated perfectly on his Twitter. He had a picture of on one side it was the Officer Chauvin, I think his name was, with his knee on George Floyd's neck, and the other picture of Kaepernick kneeling for the anthem.
Right.
And he said, "This is why."
Exactly.
And all I can say is, again, Kaepernick was right.
Yep, and we're just, and as long as this issue continues on in our country, he's just going to continue to reiterate it. People who stand with fighting for equality in our country is going to continue to push that narrative. But let's get to reaction from the athletes. There's outpouring support from athletes of all races, because it's important. I mean, you're playing beside everybody. It's important to support your brothers and sisters, obviously, because the sports world is not limited to men. It's also to women as well. So there's been a lot of support from all the athletes. Like you said, LeBron James, early on came out and said something. Michael Jordan made a statement. Even Joe Burrow, how about this? He's made a statement as well, and he's number one quarterback in the draft.
Yeah.
It's amazing how people responded well to this issue. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
I'm glad that there is an outpouring of support from our athletes that play sports, especially the ones that are in the, I wouldn't say in the media all the time, but are at the tier of their sports. We should listen to them more. We flock to certain news is like one news station says one thing, one news station says another. They're the polar opposites of each other. And I think if we listen to our athletes more, I think resolutions can happen more. Because you look at a news station that's more on the left, they're going to say their things. You listen to a news station that's more on the right, and then you're glued to that section because you're going to agree with those things instead of looking at the bigger picture and trying to find your own way to form your own opinions.
Cognitive dissonance.
But yeah, we should listen to our athletes.
And I think it's very important that the sports world, since of how much it can impact people in our country. Like people in our country, a lot of them live for sports. They watch sports. Sports is a huge entertainment industry. It's a huge industry in our country, and people flock to it to escape. And when you have, and so it's just a huge responsibility for the athletes that try to provide happiness to show that they care, and to show that they are for just basic human rights.
Yeah, and also Kaepernick, he spoke out about this, and I think is because it also comes back to the debates of other people I've heard that said oh well, athletes and celebrities and actors, they shouldn't bring up their political views, but my view on that is I think if someone like if someone's view from like someone like LeBron James makes you more aware of issues and it gets you to look up, I think that's a wonderful thing. It gets you to more aware than someone like your local congressman or senator or anchor on the nightly news. If an athlete is motivating you to look up, research, and get involved, I think that's a great thing. And that's what's and I think it's good that all these athletes are speaking out.
It's a good thing, because you know what? If someone has to say it, it's the athletes.
Absolutely.
I could go say something tomorrow. You know what? No one's gonna care what I say. But like, if I was like a famous athlete, that has a I'll say a multi-million-dollar contract, or I've won multiple championships and I'm a known athlete, my opinion could matter and help make a difference. A no name, his opinion's not going to matter. Like a LeBron James opinion, or Kawhi Leonard, just to name a few. Like if they're outspoken, they're speaking out against this, it might get people to listen.
Yes. If they are speaking out, it's going to get people to listen.
Exactly. And of course, you have people like Enes Kanter getting involved in the protest. You have people like Dennis Smith Jr. getting involved in the protest. Even Jackson's been right beside that Floyd family for the longest.
He's been friends with them, I think.
Yeah, the longest time. And then, of course, Floyd Mayweather. How about this? Paying for funeral costs for that family.
And you got Kanye paying for a college.
Yep, exactly.
Kanye West said he would pay for it.
And that's another thing, the entertainment, not just the sports world, but the whole entire entertainment, Hollywood elites coming for this racial cause. And I think it's just amazing that it's taken this long. But, I mean, it's like I said, never too late to get involved. And, I'm just glad that they're choosing now to get involved, because it's very important, and it's a prominent issue. Anyone who continues to say it's not, they're blinded, because bottom line is this happens far too often. These issues happen far too often. And, as someone who's of color, it's frightening. It's very frightening, So I hate to make it all personal, but, there are times where I may fear for my life. And I don't mean to spit out feelings, but that's just how I feel. That's the reality of the world today, is that, we've made progress since the mid 20th century. But more needs to happen, because far too often there is a racial disparity. I do want to get into people that have not.
Reg, can I just say one quick thing before we
go
do
ahead.
And I just want to say from my own perspective, and listen, you know, I don't know what it's like to be in that position
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a Caucasian male, and but you know what? It should bring out thinking about, how others do feel, about how people of color feel. Like when I was watching that video, I wanted to throw up. And a friend of ours who is African American, he posted on his Facebook page that he's scared to walk down the street because he's afraid he's going to get killed. And it really brings out that, I don't have to live with that fear. And it really makes me upset that other people have to live with that fear.
Exactly. Being on your toes all the time.
And it's awful. And in a way, it makes me feel terrible because, again, I don't have to worry about that. But I worry about, people I know, love, respect, who are of color, who do have to have that fear at night.
Exactly.
And I think it's terrible.
Yeah. Oh, well, Bill, I certainly appreciate you and Patch. Obviously, you guys, you guys are my rock. So I appreciate the love and support, and of course, I appreciate the support of everyone. Now it's becoming a very much diverse movement. When you talk about Black Lives Matter, and you talk about trying to bring an end to police brutality, it's become a diverse movement. But there are obviously some critics of the movement. You're always going to find that. And one in particular is Drew Brees, which whoever, I think Patchy, you have the quote, what he said.
Oh, I thought I had. I think I might have been a quote. I would have to find it again. I don't have it at this moment.
Essentially, he was criticizing kneeling during the national anthem. He felt that wasn't the right way to protest. He said he was always going to stand. He was never going to kneel, and that's basically the gist of what he's saying. And he got a lot of backlash for it because of the issue at hand. And reading what Drew Brees had to say, and then eventually he apologized. When the people argue whether that apology was sincere or not, I think Drew Brees is doing the best he can to, stand by the people that he plays with. But it is frustrating to have to watch a prominent figure in the NFL have to come out and say stuff like that, especially in a time where there's a lot of social issues, a lot of racial injustice.
Yeah. And then his initial comments, his team was surprised. Like all his teammates were coming out with his initial comments after George Floyd's death, and it was like they were in shock on what he had to say. And then Drew Brees drew a whole bunch of backlash from the media.
He certainly did, and and obviously, I know Drew Brees means well, but he should know better, because these are important things that you have to understand, especially if you are a figure that people look up to in the NFL. Go ahead, Bill.
Drew Brees, I think he just missed the mark. Like, I think at first he just doesn't understand. Again, going back to what we said a few minutes ago, he doesn't understand why they kneel. Again, it's that binary thinking. But he then, to his credit, gave him an apology. I just want to go through this, and then I want to open the floor to questions, if that's okay with this.
Sure.
Drew Brees, then he apologized, saying that he was wrong in saying that. And then President Trump on Twitter criticized him and said something along the lines of, Drew Brees shouldn't have apologized. I like Drew Brees. Everyone should stand tall for the national anthem and honor Old Glory. No kneeling. And then Drew Brees responded to him and saying, like, I now understand what this is about. That it is about police brutality and the African American community, and it is about, you know, that it is about of what it really is about, and it's not just about, and it's not about the flag. And he said it's like 2017 all over again.
This is just a little bit of what he said. He says to Donald Trump, through my ongoing, I can't speak today, conversations with friends and teammates and leaders in the Black community, I realized that this is not an issue about the American flag. It has never been. We can no longer use the flag to turn people away or distract them from the real issues that face our Black communities. We did this back in 2017, and regretfully, I brought it back with my comments this week. We must stop talking about the flag and shift our attention to the real issues of systemic racial injustice, economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's history. If not now, then when?
And this brings up a question. When he first made that apology, I was thinking, he's not sorry he said it. He's sorry he got caught and that he's getting backlash, because Malcolm Jenkins, his teammate, the wide receiver, he's a wide receiver, right, Malcolm Jenkins? Anyway, Malcolm Jenkins said about that Drew Brees is missing the point. And then when he made that apology, at first I'm thinking he's not sorry for what he said. He's sorry he got caught. But then
Jenkins is a safety.
Okay, safety. Sorry. But then when he made that apology, like I said, first he's just sorry he got caught. But then when Trump invokes him, and you know what? And now I'm starting to think maybe his apology is genuine. Maybe he was just misunderstood, and now he's understanding what it's all about. But I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think Drew Brees' apology was sincere, or do you think he was?
Well, I certainly think he was trying to, at first, save face, with his teammates, because he tried to switch the top. He tried to move away from the topic at hand. But then, part of this whole learning experience for many people is understanding that it's okay not to understand and that he's trying to learn. So I definitely applaud Drew Brees for at least, coming to his senses and understanding that, hey, look, I need to get out of this cloud of we're making it about this, but we really have to make it about that. He's starting to shift towards the real issue of the racial injustice. So I do applaud him for that. His first apology, however, it does seem like, it was just an apology just to, because he got caught and it didn't make him look good. But this calling out President Trump, though, I think that does make him look much better. I don't know how much better, but to me, it certainly makes him look better knowing that he now is understanding that he just didn't quite get it at first, and that now he's on board and he's trying to learn more about the issues.
Because if he has the courage to stand up to the President of the United States,
who's been very critical of all racial protests, and I still don't understand why. Go ahead.
Which one?
Patchy, go ahead.
Patchy, what is your thoughts? Do you think he's genuinely sorry, or do you think he
to go off Reg, he made a statement, and then it's like, all right, it's like he got his hand caught in the cookie jar. He apologized, but then lashing out and making a statement on to what President Trump said, it's like it hit him in the head and he finally got it. It's just like us discussing at the beginning. It's like, you know what? At first, we didn't understand what Kaepernick was saying, but now, you know, we all finally get it. And there will still be the few that don't understand what Kaepernick did, but to go off Breeze, I think now Breeze has I forgive Breeze. You know what? He has a little bit more to do. He has to maybe help a little bit more with the movement, but at this moment, you know what? I forgive him, and that's coming, you know, from a Caucasian man.
And look, it's coming from me too. Look, I think there is a path for him to sort of save himself. And I think he's trying to do that. And if he just continues with it, then there'll be no issue. But he has to really stick to it. And that's all I ask for. That's all I ask for pretty much anyone, you know, that's fighting this movement.
Do you think if let me throw you guys a scenario here.
Okay.
It's opening night in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, everyone please stand for the national anthem. And Drew Brees with his teammates take a knee. Do you think that show, like, okay, he gets it now?
I do not know how to answer that at this time.
That's a pretty tough thing to answer, to be honest with you.
Because it's 3 months down the road, too.
I wouldn't say that it's 3 months down the road. It's just a situation that we are not in yet. You know, what happens when the NBA comes back and they say, all right, it's time for the national anthem. Do you think NBA players take a knee for this issue that's going on in this world? If NHL comes back, when NHL comes back, are they going to do the same? You know, so like I think to make an impact, you have to make it in sports. You know, we saw it way back in the I remember around 50s or 60s, you know, we had, you know, the raising of the fist.
The 1968 Olympics.
Thank you. The 68 Olympics, you know, the medalists that were on the podium, they raised their hands in, you know, to make a statement. It wasn't, you know, that, and that's on one of the biggest stages. And consider the fact what was going on in that time period.
Yeah, and that was an international stage.
Yeah. And the guy, the Caucasian guy who was Australian, I forgot his name, but I'll just give you a brief summary. He was asked, because there was like a human rights commission in the Olympics, that's where they got the gloves, and he asked, well, how can I help? He goes, well, we have an extra glove and we have a patch. Think you can do that? And he goes, yeah. And he won second place, and he was one of the people who threw his fist up in the air. And that guy, again, I'm sorry I forgot his name, but he, back in Australia, he was basically ostracized, like literally till the day he died. Because Australia, like South Africa, had apartheid. And he was basically banned from running in the Olympics again. Like, even though he qualified, they didn't want him running.
Well,
unless they told him, you got to denounce what you did. And he said, no. And
well, it's all part of people just not understanding what it's like to be in a situation where you're always treated as some, you know, second-class citizen, that's sick, as if you're just a illness when you're not. You know, I'm trying to find the words because, you know, I'm trying not to be all cliche and stuff, but it's tough, you know, when you're a minority in any country.
And yeah, you're right. Like, people just don't get it.
I just don't. And, you know, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we look at the Green Bay Packers, and they released a video. I think one of the first teams to, if not, I think the only team still right now to release a video saying, you know what, enough's enough. And it goes through multiple players of different colors.
Exactly.
And it shows, and you know what, a lot of people are praising the Packers. You look at, you can always say, go look at the comments, but you look at some of the comments, different fan base teams, you know what? I mean, I like this team, but you know what? I agree with what they say. And it's a powerful statement coming from one of the oldest teams in the league, and considering the fact on where the Packers are located because of the population and the diversity that lives in the state of Wisconsin.
Right.
And we should talk about like the other leagues, like reaction, like the NFL put out a video yesterday, was it?
From Roger Goodell, you mean?
No, there was like a bunch of videos saying that we are opposed to police brutality, and they're saying, I'm George Floyd, I'm Tamir Rice.
I believe that. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, it was a bunch of African American players that said, "What if I was George Floyd? What if I was this person? This person?"
Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner,
and then Roger Goodell put out a video
as well.
And the NFL was saying that they're sorry that they misunderstood the protest.
And again, it just goes to show you, and then this was tougher from the NFL because, again, like I said, they pretty much ostracized Colin Kaepernick from the league, and you can't deny that anymore because of the fact that so many players since then have been suspended for fighting and for domestic violence and all this type of stuff, and Colin Kaepernick tries to protest a real racial issue, and he has been in the league, and now they're all coming out and saying, well, now we support this. It's like, to me, it's a bit of a slap in the face. That's just my opinion.
I think it's a big slap in the face. We should have listened from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see, and you know what? Kaepernick could still be in the league. It's a hard subject, but for what he did, it's just like the NFL's like, you know what? You're getting the boot. You're out of here. And that's what happened. Dude just got excommunicated, and and then he said, if someone and then if he got re-signed, he said he would stand and all that.
Exactly. He was willing to comply. And you can give me the whole, well, we had him work out. We had a planned workout for him with all these teams and whatever. We had everything set up for him to. They weren't going to sign him. Let's be honest here.
No, they weren't.
Nobody's going to want to sign him because I don't think the players want that. I don't think the organizations want the publicity.
Well, a lot of the players didn't want the distraction, but of course now that this issue with the whole George Floyd situation in Minneapolis, now that this has happened, what was the whole point of that?
Absolutely.
So you really have to ask yourself, Kaepernick was just trying to do something. He's trying to start a conversation, and
that's all he was doing.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So the fact the NFL is coming out now and all this, and of course Roger Goodell, he also released a video. I'm sure he did.
No, he did. He released a video.
And again, it's all. This should have been done 4 years ago. This should have been a thing where where it's an issue. It's just a matter of what's right and what's wrong. And the fact that the NFL was also a little bit late to the party, it just stinks. And it's not just the NFL,
Major League Baseball waited 9 days.
Yeah, Major League Baseball waited far too long to release their statements after the whole Minneapolis situation with George Floyd. I don't know. It stinks that you have these big entities, and I can understand the business aspect of it. But when you have players of color in your league, you have a responsibility.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you, how do you think the media is handling all these athletes protesting?
Well, they're doing the best they can because media, they're trying to they're trying to be informational while also trying to, you know, get people's reaction. Because of course, you know, in all these like cable channels and all this stuff, you know, it's all about commentary and everything is all about reactions. So it's so far, a lot of critics are praising the athletes. A lot of critics didn't like what Drew Brees did. You know, that's all it is.
And because what do you think it's going to be like going forward in the NFL and all that,
Well, I just hope that.
or sports in general?
Well, I just hope that, you know, they get involved. You know, I'm still waiting on my New York Knicks to give a full statement. They send a memo out, and obviously that didn't work out because they didn't give a statement. They're just like, well, we're just going to avoid it because it's not our place to give opinions. But you have black athletes on your team, New York. It's like, come on already. So hopefully moving forward, more organizations, more leagues. It seems like that's sort of going in that direction. They get involved and they find ways to bring equality to the human race.
Because do you think this is going to spark like more protests as we go on, like in sports?
The protest has already sparked.
Like
it's already happening.
Like what I mean to say is, do you think like opening day NFL, everyone please rise for the national anthem, all players take a knee?
I don't know. Again, we don't know about that yet.
Like I say, that's a situation that is 3 months out.
You know, I mean, I obviously don't want opening day to get distracted by everything, but it seems likely. It's because of the issues at hand. It matters more to the people that play the sport.
If anything, it should be at the player's discretion. If they feel if they want to take a knee, take the knee. You probably have a few players that still want to stand for the anthem, but at the end of the day, it's the player's decision.
And I think at this point I think the people that support movements like Black Lives Matter, like fixing the injustice in with racism and all that. I think the fact that it's getting more support from people and that's slowly becoming a majority, I think that it's actually good for business that they do it.
But like if you remember in 2017, and this didn't have much damage, there were people after the kneelers, there were people like, that's it, I'm never watching the NFL again. How dare they disrespect the troops?
Well,
but that didn't
you're always going to have those.
That didn't do much damage to the NFL.
Unfortunately, the NFL losing a few million people is not going to affect the NFL. The NFL is still going to make billions of dollars. That's a side note, but you're always going to have those few bad apples that see something and way overreact. We saw the videos, people throwing all their memorabilia in the garbage, letting a match and set it on fire. To me, that's overreacting. As one, you're burning your own money, basically.
Because those jerseys cost a lot of money.
Jerseys cost less money, but okay, you doing that, what's that make? The NFL is going to go, okay, we lost a fan, big deal. They'll gain 7 more tomorrow because people are taking a stance towards something.
And yeah, that's and who knows? Is it going to spark the chaos it did back in 2017?
I mean, I hope it doesn't. I hope it's going to be more positive than negative.
I mean, you look at the instance for the Baltimore riots when that happened. The Orioles had to play their game in an empty stadium. We don't think it's going to come to that, but you play the what if factor. What if these riots do get out of hand? Our team's going to be in jeopardy in a way?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a riot going outside your stadium, but you're playing the game on the inside. What happens if something does go down there?
You got a lot of stuff to worry about with all this.
It's a lot of stuff to worry about. You know, we're trying to get over a global pandemic right now, and it's something that distract us from the COVID, but it's not a distraction either because it's something that needs to be addressed. It's something that needs to be addressed. We need to all come together and make a difference.
And the thing is, listen, we got to all come together and have a conversation. And listen, it's not going to be a pleasant conversation.
It's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's not a situation
And listen, it's going to make you angry. But as St. Augustine once said, anger is a response to injustice.
Right.
And listen, we're going to have this conversation. Like, I'm not going to lie. I was scared to do this today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You had to go off camera. You know, you're worried about backlash. You're worried about backlash. You know what? Sometimes you're gonna have good. You're gonna have negative. Yin and yang.
But you know what? And Reg, you actually helped give me the courage to come on camera and talk about this today. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you know, all of us, black, white, we all gotta come together. We all gotta fight this. And listen, we gotta sit down and have that conversation. And those people who were burning their jerseys after Kaepernick took a knee, I think they're just misunderstanding everything.
Well, they're misunderstanding the point.
And
they're addressing an issue that has to be addressed.
And
you know,
I don't think those people are hopeless.
They probably don't get the point. They like you discussing about, you know, we discussed about, you know, someone's going to throw a rock through a window. Like I said, you're jumping from step 1 to step 32. You're missing steps 2 through 31. You can't just jump to conclusion. You should play the what if factor. How can I help? How can I change? And how do we do this?
Exactly.
I think we all got, because like I said, I don't think those people are beyond or lost causes. I think most of them, I think if they hear the other side and they say, well, this is why Kaepernick does take a knee. This is why those basketball players wore shirts that said, I can't breathe. If they understand why, that it's not about the flag, it's not about the troops, it's about police brutality. And that we do need to find ways to bring that message across and say, something is wrong in our society, it needs to be done, it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and it's not going to change overnight, but the more people that are on board, the easier you'll get. And, you know, everyone is going to fight this together. That's how we do it. We win when we fight together. I say it all the time. You have solidarity, you have strength. Always and always.
And listen, we need to show solidarity, and we're going to get some backlash. Not just this, but everything. And as, and my message to Colin Kaepernick or any of the athletes who protest is, sorry I'm giving out all these random quotes today, but one quote's one of my personal favorites. It's from Winston Churchill, and he said, if you have enemies, good. It means you stood up for something at some point in your life.
To say this, you know what? The sooner we come together, the sooner this country can be great. We can all be on one level.
It's not going to...
No one's above each other. No one's below each other. We all need to be together. And to me, that's how we need to make this country great again. We need to all come together, be one, and that's how truly this country can be great again.
And again, it just goes from your leadership, who represents you in many ways, whether it's government, whether it's just a local activist, whether it's a nonprofit organization. It's whoever serves you. That's who you have to talk to, and hopefully they can advance the issue.
And hopefully at the end of the day, this all becomes fixed. And listen,
you're not going to fix it entirely, but
No.
but it's about making the world a better place.
And that's what we got to do. And listen, from all of us, we're not politicians. We're not experts on this. But we just hope taking some time today to have this conversation. If we change some minds, great. If we get people to break down the barriers to have these conversations, if we just get one person to listen and try to break down and try to, maybe this person was first not happy with Kaepernick and wanted to boycott the NFL. But now hearing this, maybe that person will understand, okay, this is what happened. If we just reach one person with that, it's a success.
Yeah, and look, it's going to take time. And for those of you that aren't willing to talk about it or aren't willing to change your views, just understand what people of color go through every day. You just have to listen to it. And you don't have to understand it fully. That's fine. We're not saying to understand it completely, but just listen. And that goes for everybody, everyone of the entire human race. Just listen to people that you talk to, listen to the people that you interact with, to the people that you work with, the people that you live with. Just listen. We all come together when we have civil conversations and everything is done properly. And there's no right way to approach this, but there is a way to come together and make this world a great place so that we can all live in it, because it's a beautiful world we live in.
It is.
And hopefully listening to these athletes who are, trying to get the message out. Like, look what LeBron said about Kaepernick. This is why.
Yeah. And again, I think it's beautiful that we're getting all the reaction with the athletes. It's very important.
And like I said, will it finally get all those people to sit down and goes, okay, you know what? We need to have this conversation.
Agreed.
And hopefully this can come and, like you said, we can make the world a better place.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this was a tough one, but we made it through, guys. I'm very proud of y'all. And again, thank you for your insight and for standing up for justice. And
anytime, my friend.
Anytime.
And we hope future episodes of the extra innings content will be much lighter and a lot more fun. But obviously, this is very important to speak on, because this is our world. It's the reality of the situation, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So thank you guys again.
You're welcome.
We will see you next week. Listen next week, however you get your podcast. Podbean, obviously, and obviously YouTube. And, we're trying to get other places soon. So bear with us. It's a new process.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
It's a fun journey we're on right now, as I put it. It's a fun journey.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying the ride right now.
Yeah. But
right.
the extra innings thing won't be a weekly thing. It's just that something that we think we need to cover separately. We'll do that.
Yeah. But to start with this topic, I think it's a good start to the 11th inning.
All right.
Extra innings.
Extra innings. My bad. Well, the 11th inning is an extra inning, by the way.
It's true. It very much is. All right, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. It was a difficult conversation, but we made it through. Be safe. Be well. If you're protesting, Be careful. There's a lot of things going on. So just hopefully that you're doing well and, both physically, mentally, just understand that. We love y'all. Peace out. Until next week.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Love you guys.